Do you ever feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to do? Showing up for your family, your work, and everyone around you, yet still feel exhausted, overwhelmed, or like something is missing? In this episode of Wellness to Greatness, I'm joined by Peter McLaughlin, certified hypnotherapist, life coach, father, former volunteer firefighter, and EMT, and also the creator of BlueSky Hypnosis. After a life-changing leukemia and Lyme disease diagnosis, Peter began exploring the powerful connection between the mind, body, and spirit, a journey that ultimately led him to dedicate his work to helping people uncover and heal the root causes behind emotional and behavioral patterns. So in part 1 today of our conversation, we explore survival mode, chronic stress, and why so many high-achieving parents find themselves stuck in patterns they can't seem to break.
So your journey in this work began after a life-changing health diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So what did that experience teach you about the connection between stress, the mind, and healing?
The first thing that comes to mind is that it is true that the mind and body are connected. Everyone will say that. But now try finding doctors that will actually practice that way. Beyond, you've got to reduce your stress or take a vacation. That's about as far as the average doctor is gonna advise you. But those two things are obviously connected, and it certainly was that for me. So when I was diagnosed on the same day in 2003 with Lyme disease and leukemia, and I was told maybe I would live for 10 years, I had 3 little children. They were 6, 4, and 2. We had a really old house, 100-year-old house, Victorian, that I was trying to fix up on weekends. I was working 4 days a week as a consultant on Wall Street and commuting 2 hours each way. And then on the 5th day during the week, I was growing a security guard business.
Wow.
And for the first time in my life, I was totally overwhelmed. And I'm sure that that's when these processes kicked off. Because as you, I'm sure, know, when you're in a state of fight or flight or stress, the sympathetic nervous system, your body automatically robs Peter to pay Paul. It takes energy from all your major systems to give to your muscles to run or fight. Because when you're being attacked by a tiger, you don't need your immune system to be on high, or your digestive system, or your reproductive system, or your endocrine system. You need to survive that encounter. Otherwise, it just doesn't matter at all. And in modern life, like where I was in the couple of years before I was diagnosed, I was in that constant state of fight or flight. It was always there. And I think it created the conditions, the fertile ground, if you will, for these disease processes to take root.
Yeah, because you were high functioning, so your survival mode felt normal to you.
That's right.
You were just in the grind, in the hustle, doing what you need to do to succeed, support your family. And I find my audience as high achieving career moms are in the same boat. And I've heard this several times from women. It's like, well, I don't think I'm burnt out. I don't think I'm on fight or flight mode, because it's become so normalized to them.
Yeah.
So when that traumatic event in your life of being diagnosed with, you had Lyme disease and leukemia, is that was kind of like the rock bottom, or like the point that said, okay, something's got to change, right? Like, and
that was the official rock bottom. I think rock bottom had hit earlier. I just wasn't willing to acknowledge it.
Well, that's just it. Like, how many times do we have to hit rock bottom? There was moments in my life where I was stuck in this pattern of behavior to addiction to alcohol and other things, where I literally fell flat on my face and I didn't see the sign, like, scratched up on the side of my face, and I had to go to work next day, and they're like, what happened to you? And I was like, haha, you should see the other guy, because I was too ashamed to admit what it was.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you're able to admit that, because a lot of people are in that denial phase. So a lot of my listeners, as I was mentioning, who are successful women, they seem to have it all put together on the outside and feel exhausted on the inside. So why do you think so many high achieving, high functioning women get stuck in survival mode? Like, how does that pattern begin?
I think it begins culturally.
Mm.
This is not 200 years ago where there are strictly defined roles. And it would have been hard enough, just raising kids. That is clearly a full-time job.
Yes.
It is clearly the most important job on the planet because it governs how society unfolds over the next generation and the one after that.
Mm.
But now, if a woman is being told, probably starting with my generation, maybe a little earlier, that you can have it all, you should have it all. There's something wrong with you if you don't have children and raise them to be wonderful human beings and spend quality time, because you can't spend time with them. So we have to come up with this term called quality time. And you need to be a high-powered executive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've just given somebody 2 demanding full-time jobs where the needs of each one of them generally would supersede the other.
Mm-hmm.
How do you juggle that?
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of the cultural piece, and I just came across this, I think yesterday, is that, and I just started to research it, so please don't hold me to account on this one, but it really is tantalizing how women regulate their nervous systems differently than the way men do.
Mm-hmm.
That women have this, the phrase is called like tend and befriend. Meaning that oxytocin, the hormone oxytocin, is vital to a woman regulating her nervous system. It isn't for a man. It's different.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Like a light bulb just went off my head, but please continue. Right? Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Like when my wife is totally stressed out, she always feels better when she goes for a walk with one of her friends. Like if we're having an argument or a bad time and she's like, I need to go for a walk with my friend, I want to just say, thank you. Thank you, because I know when you come back, you're actually gonna feel better.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to say I don't have responsibility in whatever the conflict was. I'm sure I do, but I know that she feels better when she spends time with her friends. And there's this interplay between oxytocin and estrogen. That supposedly estrogen interacts with oxytocin and enhances it in a way that testosterone doesn't.
Ooh.
So if you go back to the whole cultural piece, and women are now supposed to be integrated into the workforce, into what was created by men, and I think feel this pressure to behave like a man, to compete like men in that arena, that's going to put way more stress on them too.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like you need to cry and you feel like you can't because it's not professional, that's just going to make things worse for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents standing on a soapbox answer for why it may be so hard for women. Those 2 reasons.
Well, and I think you really highlighted that, because I noticed too in my relationship with my husband is that I manage stress anxiety very different than he does. He internalizes, he goes and does his own thing. He has to process it. And I don't want to gaslit this concept because I'm not a man, so I'm not sure. But my observation is that he handles it more internally. He doesn't really need to talk about it. As for me, it's like, I don't always need someone to fix it, but I need them to hear me out. And I think you're right, like that connecting with another woman, or even my husband, if he can't wrap his head around it, just a hug from him is really all I need.
And that's oxytocin.
It is oxytocin, yes. And this is very interesting you bring that up, because when we give birth to our child, vaginally, we release oxytocin. That's what brings us more connection to our baby. And I find often my clients, when a woman has to have a C-section for whatever reason, choice or not choice, they feel disconnected from their child. It takes a while for them to feel connected. Some of them even have a hard time producing breast milk. So there's that disconnect. And I think you nailed it on the head, where why high-achieving women in this male-dominant work industry can feel so disconnected to themselves, because they're not receiving that nurture sort of feel that we are innately built to have. Am I hearing you right?
You are.
Okay.
You are. And
okay.
in this same model that and I'm just 24 hours into this, But in the same model, men regulate their nervous system supposedly more on dopamine. So that would be taking action.
Yes.
That when there's a problem, men are sort of wired to take action.
Yep.
And if women are wired for oxytocin and they need the man to hear what they have to say, I have always found with my wife this total disconnect. Like you just want to talk about it. Like, you just want me to say, wow, that must be really hard for you. Because to me, it's just like, I understand it now, but it's taken me years and years and years to understand that. Because if a man walks up to you and says, I'm really having problems with my car, it's like, oh, what's going on, man? Let me roll up my sleeves and see if I can help you with that.
Yes. And I love how you describe that. Dopamine is more of an action piece, and it's a feel good. Like, for me, it's like, I think of like eating a piece of chocolate, I feel that feel good. And I mean, it's the action of doing something, still eating. And I think that's where we get from binge eating, smoking, vaping, alcohol. It's the process of doing to get that instant dopamine, but also the action of exercising, fixing, being. And I find too is that my mother, bless her, I love her so much, but she's also a very what's the word, overfunctioner, like the helicopter, like she'll want to help you. So she actually also has this strong dopamine, but it's also the connection of talking about it and helping you, right? So she's getting both of them. And I think possibly that women who are in a very, I don't want to say male dominant, because I'm also I'm a massage therapist, so it's very nurturing. There's a lot of, me helping.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm getting my fix of, of that. But some women are in a very male dominant, and maybe that's where they're getting some of the hit of dopamine, but where they're missing the other one. So thank you for sharing that. It is so insightful, especially for us. A lot of my listeners are wives, and now they can see that pattern, that loop in their relationship, and why we're not connecting, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because that causes so much conflict in relationships.
100%.
It's kind of the men from Mars, women from Venus concept.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
That we're missing each other sometimes because our operating system is different. And I think that creates a lot of excitement, a lot of attraction, but it can also create this disconnect in some other moments. And if both parties are aware of how we behave differently, I think it can bring more peace to what otherwise might seem like an intractable conflict. Like, she's crazy, yes. Or he, I thought he was this, but he's that.
Yes. And yes, I agree. And what I find to be helpful is that when I am struggling with something and my husband is in that fix mode, he's actually we've worked on language and how to talk to each other, and is like, well, what can I do for you right now? What would there be there to support you? And for me, I know he likes to fix things. So I said, this is not relevant to my issue, but if you can help out with whatever, doing the dishes or taking the kids to school, and that's an action, and I know that would best serve him, and he feels like, hey, I'm helping her,
Yes. Yes.
Do you agree with that? Like,
completely.
Yeah.
The reason I was laughing is because it's recognition. We've been married for 30 years, and we got to the same place where I basically just tell me what to do. And she said in those moments, well, you can just ask me what I need.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. When I find so I had this rule with my husband that every day he has to hug me for 10 seconds.
A good rule. Yeah.
It's a good rule. And I think what he started to see is that a pattern in my body language of when I really needed it. So he starts to see either my shoulders go up, or I'm like, moving around the house aimlessly, doing random things in no order. He sees that anxiety build up, and he'll be like, hey, come here. And he'll give me a 10-second hug. And so over time, I didn't have to ask for it. He starts to recognize when I need it. But don't get me wrong. At the beginning, I had to literally tell him, you see this? This means I need a hug. Look at my shoulders, But then he started to see it. And that's where we could communicate with our partner, not with just words, but action, like our physical behavior and us, all that. They could see it too. So I want to ask you this question. So what are some of the signs that someone is operating from a subconscious survival pattern rather than a conscious choice?
Okay, there are a couple of words in there, like the word pattern, for example.
Yeah.
If you find that you keep doing the same thing that is producing some kind of negative result over and over again, and you don't know why you're doing it, that's prima facie evidence that that's unfolding from your subconscious mind.
Mm.
So if you were talking about chocolate before, if you're just binging on chocolate and you would call it mindless, you know, or a bag of potato chips or something, and you would say, I just do this mindless eating. You would call it self-sabotage, all these different phrases. You would know that this is coming from your subconscious mind. And I've always tried to simplify things in the 20 years I've been doing this work. And I've come to the conclusion that everything, as far as the subconscious is concerned, conforms to the way the autonomic nervous system functions. So autonomic is just automatic, runs everything about your body, and it only has two modes. It has fight or flight, it has rest and digest. Sympathetic, parasympathetic. That's it. That's all it has. And it's always scanning the outside world and what's going on the inside, including your memory, for danger, because its job is to protect you. So whether you use the word worry or aggravated or hate or rage or fear or concern, all of these words are just subtleties that to the subconscious mind all mean fight or flight. When a person is binging, when they're involved in any kind of addictive behavior, my belief is that it's a subconscious soothing mechanism, just like putting your thumb in your mouth.
That's my daughter's.
I remember thinking when our kids went from having a binky or just yelling to be able to soothe themselves, that was a big deal. That was really great. But as we become adults, we learn this is not okay anymore. And so we find other ways of soothing ourselves. So if you find that you're doing something quote unquote mindlessly, you're soothing yourself. Then the question is, why?
Yes.
Oh, I'm totally stressed out. Why are you totally stressed out? And what would be the solution to that? And I recognize, based on the realities of the culture in which we live, that you can't always just go on vacation. You can't necessarily quit your job. But what you can do is you can shift your autonomic nervous system on purpose from that constant sympathetic fight or flight mode into the rest and digest. You can do it in 5 minutes. And one of the reasons why people talk about how important a practice is, like Tai Chi or Qigong or meditation or something like this, is because it's a way of moving yourself into that other mode of the autonomic nervous system, the rest and digest. And physics says that body in motion tends to stay in motion. So if you are stressed, you're going to stay that way unless you do something to move yourself into the other mode. And if you do this over and over again, it will become easier and easier and easier for you, because a body in motion tends to stay in motion. So if you're in that rest and digest, it's easier to stay there and harder to get knocked out. But I think the truth is that you have to find some way of interrupting this pattern, this cyclical pattern, so that you don't have to succumb to different kinds of addiction.
Yes.
So your relationship isn't destroyed, so your body's not destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Is one thing that came up for me when you were speaking is a flexible mind, or flexible body is a flexible mind as well. And with practice of doing this, allowing myself to go more in parasympathetic mode, more that relax, digest, I find now that the cue is a lot easier to recognize. The more I practice it, I feel in my body when I'm vibrating, I'm anxious, I need to move. And then I go do the dang thing instead of turning to the pantry or the fridge, or if it's nighttime, the kids are in bed and I can go for a walk. Instead of sitting down, having a cocktail or whatever, go out and move my body. And I always come back feeling better, you know? But I think when a high achieving woman is constantly in the hustle mode, I don't know about others, but I know for me, I kind of chuckled at the idea of slowing down because I feel like hustle to me equals success. And I can get there at a faster speed. So if I slow down, therefore what? You know, so, and I know I've learned over time that for me, it was if I slowed down, I am not good enough. I'm not worthy. And now I'm past that. But I find a lot of women feel like they have guilt, this guilt of sitting down and try to settling into their seat. And finding stillness means that they're not doing enough, that they have to get up. So why is it that when someone's stuck in this pattern of like a hustle culture, why do they feel so much guilt in this slowing down and settling? Before you answer that, because you mentioned something that vacation time is not enough anymore. And what I recognize now, I'm way better. Before, it'd take me a long time to settle in, to relax. And then by the time I got closer to the end, I was like over it. I'm like, I just need to go back home. I want to get my routine. I have so much I need to do. So there was maybe like a day or two in a week where I finally was able to settle, but then I felt like I was eager to get back to it. Why is that?
Why are you eager to get back to work, or why do you feel?
Why is it that women feel like they have to constantly be moving, and why do they feel so much guilt or discomfort in stillness?
I think that probably gets back to cultural and maybe gender as well. I remember learning a long time ago that men's vision in general is optimized for a single object at a distance. And women's vision is optimized to track multiple people and things close in. And you could imagine what this means. You know, they talk about men hunting, going for 3 days hunting, and there's an animal way out there, and they're just laser focused on that animal. And women are trying to keep track of multiple children around them.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of making this up right now to answer your question, but on the gender side, I could imagine that women are sort of optimized for working all the time because children require a lot of work, but maybe at a lower level of intensity. And men are optimized perhaps for a single focus, shutting everything else out until they achieve that one thing. And so that maybe there is something that's hardwired in us for women, especially that I should constantly be moving, constantly be doing something. Just maybe not at the level of intensity of going into a workforce that was designed by men. That I think that's that culture. I remember I worked in corporations for a while, and they try to make you think that you're a family. They use that word. You're not a family. Families don't just fire somebody or lay them off and have a guard standing there so you don't steal something on your way out, you know?
Yes.
They don't make you sign non-disclosure agreements on your way out in exchange for your severance pay or something. But they like to promote this idea at the front end. You know, and we have values and we've got these handbooks and everything else, but when push comes to shove, they don't believe in any of that. But it serves their purpose. If they can get somebody to not take all the vacation that they're allotted, if they can get someone to stay in the office, you know, until 8, 9 o'clock at night and get back in at 5 in the morning, or work on the weekends, and this is definitely to the advantage of the employer. So it makes sense to me that they would be, I don't know, creating subtle cues, not the least of which is who's the boss, because everybody takes their cue from the boss. If the boss comes in late, everybody comes in late. If the boss comes in early, everybody comes in early, because they don't want to be seen as being less motivated than others because they're afraid of getting fired or not being approved of. So I think all of that is at play as well. And I do think that we all have to recognize at some point that no one's going to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's confusing because they are kind of, you know, an employer is kind of like a parent. You know, you get your allowance and they tell you what clothes to wear.
So true.
And who you can date. You know, you can't date somebody in the office, and when you can go home and when you can take a vacation, and how you're supposed to behave, the language that you can use. So I think there are these all kinds of subtleties that are going on in the subconscious mind regarding an employment arrangement. And that's why I think that people have to remind themselves, this is a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a hired gun.
Yes.
The moment, the instant that I am not valuable to them anymore, they will get rid of me. And they're actually telling us that unconsciously, because they say employees are our greatest asset. That's what they say. An asset is like a gallon of gasoline. A gallon of gasoline is an asset. It's designed to be burned up, to be used up, and then replaced with another asset, another gallon of gasoline.
Yeah.
You know, or a laser printer is an asset. Once it doesn't work anymore, they throw it away and they get another one. That's an asset.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Human beings are not assets.
That's so funny that you say that, because when I applied for jobs in the past, I said, I truly believe I'd be an asset to your company because all these things. And I never said, like, I think I'd be a great, you know, family member. You know, like,
Right.
Essentially, I'm just saying, I know I'm a number. Here's why I'm a great asset. And this is true. My husband worked for a large corporate company. He actually just got fired recently, and it was some political BS. But they treat you as a number. They send you out there to do the dirty work, and then all of a sudden something bad happens and they wash their hands clean. All right, get rid of that guy. He's no longer an asset, and let's replace him with someone else. And it's a tough place to be. And I believe it's important that we do pick an employment where we have what's called psychological safety, which means that, yes, it's a transaction, yet your core beliefs align with theirs. And when they interview you, interview them. That's what I always say. Like,
Sure.
Ask them questions and see if they're actually their mission statement and their value statement actually align with the words that they're saying. Because like you said, it could just be BS to get people in to think it's a safe place, right? So.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. And HR could really believe all this stuff. But that's not what the investors think if it's a publicly traded company.
That's right.
It's profit, pure and simple.
Yes.
And that's why I think it's important to have your own list of priorities. Personally, I feel like children are the priority. Your family's the priority.
Yes.
And they should always come first. For you to perform at your best, if you're working in the workplace and you're working at home, you have to be able to invest in yourself. You're of no use whatsoever at all if you're totally stressed out all the time. What are you teaching your kids? Because they're not learning from what you tell them. They're watching you.
Yeah, I believe that. Caught, not taught.
I was a volunteer firefighter in EMT in 2 states for 15 years. And one of the things that they continually reinforced with us was, if you've had a drink and your pager goes off, don't come. If you have the flu and your pager goes off, don't come. If you got a sprained ankle and your pager goes off, don't come. We don't want you.
Yeah.
You're useless. You're almost worse than useless if you show up and you're impaired in some way. You have to be ready to go.
Yes.
And then at a scene, so it could be a structure fire, it could be a motor vehicle accident or something. We were constantly drilled with this too. Your first responsibility on that scene is to who? Yourself. Number 2, fellow firefighters. Number 3, bystanders. Number 4, victims. They're the 4th priority.
Wow.
Because if you get hurt, you've now created 2 victims where there was 1 before. And you've taken 1 rescuer or first responder out of the equation. You've just doubled the problem. And these had a huge impact on me for application to life.
Yeah.
So people, these high functioning women that are your viewers and your clients and so on, you've got to get it through your head. You have to, that if you're not operating at your best, at your optimum, everyone suffers.
Mm.
Your employer suffers, your clients, your coworkers, your children, your family. You've got to find time to invest in yourself.
When you said that, I was picturing, well, I know that's what you're insinuating, my family, but I take care of myself, and then your team, and then all the bystanders around it, right? So I'm thinking, if I don't take care of myself, I'm stressed, I'm exhausted, and the kids are replicating the patterns of behavior, and now their immune system is shot because they're all stressed as well.
Yeah.
They get sick, and then I can't show up to the best of my ability in my work, might have to cancel my day, all this sort of stuff. But if I show up for me where I am more in the relaxed, digest, parasympathetic state, my kids will feel that. My husband will feel that.
Totally.
And I've noticed over the last nearly 3 years, 3 years now, with me changing the way how I show up, that my kids bounce back a lot faster when they're sick, like more than anyone else. Even the daycare lady said, "What are you doing?" Because she'll get the same flu or whatever it is, but she will bounce back way faster and start eating more sooner. So I think like you're on to something about, they observe and they catch what you're doing and they will start to practice it too. It's not perfect. This is not about perfection. It's just slowly getting ourselves to a point of taking care of us, and then it will ripple out to others and our loved ones around us. I absolutely love that. Anything else you'd like to add about that?
What's the purpose of life? Are we living to work, or are we working to live? And I think most of us have this idea embedded somewhere in our culture, deep into our subconscious mind, that, hey, if you just work really hard, you'll get to a point where you can just take it easy. And it never comes.
Never comes. No.
Never. Are you busting your ass so you can get to Shady Acres assisted living facility?
It's so true. Like, I think of so many of my clients who are like still working or just finally retired at 65, 70, but they're like, but I can't travel. It's so expensive for me to get insurance because my health is shit, or I can't go walk up and down the stairs, or now I have this chronic condition, or the list goes on and on. And this is why I'm talking to women around my age group, because if we do something now, not only will we be healthier, more resilient as we get older, but also our kids will catch that. Because I also, I know this is a fear, but I focus a lot on the positive future. I think about, how are my kids going to show up in difficult situations if I tackle those things now? If I do my internal work and they match that, like, who are they going to be? Like, I don't want a 35-year-old child still living in my home. I mean, if it happens, it is what it is. But, I want them to have independence and know they have the capacity to do almost anything, as long as they set their mind to it,
Oh, yeah.
And you have adult children, correct?
Yeah. Three.
Yeah.
They're all in their 20s, 28, 26, and 24, almost 25.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, it's hard to know what it would have been, because you started this work when they were young. I think your eldest was 6, you said?
Yeah, he was born in 97 and I was diagnosed in 03. So he was 6 when I was diagnosed.
Okay. Now, do you feel like doing this work, serving and helping other people, has made an impact for your kids?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the combination of, because they grew up around the firehouse, and they had their birthday parties there and climbing all over the trucks and going through the maze and putting on the turnout gear and the helmet and participating at Kids Day and helping at Kids Day when we would open the firehouse up to the community. And so all of that, seeing me pop up and leave the house to go help somewhere, I think had a huge impact on them, as well as this work has had a huge impact on them. And largely because of how it affected me. Before I was trained in all of this, And around the time I was diagnosed, I had a horrible anger problem. Horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to heal it by healing my past. And that meant that exactly what I'm saying now. I became a better father as a result of that. I became a better husband. I became a better friend. I became a better human being as a result of that. And that obviously is going to have a huge impact on children growing up in the same household. Is it going to be the angry dad, or is it going to be the dad that can really think through something and not just fly off the handle?
Yes.
Is it the happier dad, or is it the mad dad?
Yes. I love that. And one of the biggest shifts we have made in our house, and it's going to be 2 years in July, is we cut out alcohol in our house. It was becoming a problem. And now, I mean, so many amazing things came from that. Like, losing 70 pounds, putting on muscle. I increased my revenue by 5 times the amount it was before. I've started a podcast. I'm starting to write a book. I'm creating a membership for like-minded women. So there's just so much that I want to give back, because I feel like I have more time cutting out that garbage and learning how to regulate my nervous system. So I that's beautiful, and that gives me hope hearing that from you about your children.
Mm-hmm.
Because it means that I am on the right path. Because I can only predict so much in the future, and most of the time it's wrong. But the thing is that it's giving me relief to know that this is the right direction to go.
Oh, for sure. I think one of the smartest things that we did, and it was my wife's idea, was that as soon as our eldest was born, we got rid of our television. We didn't put it in another room. We got rid of it.
Oh, that's a big one for us. I need to do that.
People thought we were insane. But our rationale was, you can't say to a kid, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. They have an internal bullshit monitor. It's one of their greatest strengths.
Yes,
and
they do.
It was the example, again, it was the example that made the difference in the lives of our children, for sure. And we had alcohol in the house, but we might drink once every few months.
Yeah.
Rarely saw us drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And we always thought it was ironic, because the high school that they went to they called it mandatory, that parents had to go to this presentation about drugs and alcohol. And the letter said, if you don't go, your kids may not be able to play sports. That's what they were holding over our heads. And we just refused to go to it. We're like, we're not going to go to something where somebody tells us not to drink alcohol or something, because we don't really drink alcohol.
Yes.
Our kids never drank, and we never had to say to them, you really should not drink, or you should have a designated driver, all these other things. They just weren't interested.
Yeah.
And we think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we weren't really doing that, and we were present. And they're not really into social media, and they don't really watch a lot of television. And we think that's just because of the way they were raised. We brought things in at a certain age. Like we got Andy Griffith's show DVDs. This is back in the day. And we would show them stuff like that as a treat as they were getting a little bit older. And then at some point, we, obviously just take all of the constraints off, because now they've formed themselves. But I do think that there's a huge piece to, you're the leader in your family. As the mom, as the dad, you're a leader. And so much about a leader is going first. You go first. Show me how it's done. Don't tell me. Show me. Be the role model.
Yes.
And that's the way your kids are going to parent, P.S. Your grandchildren.
Yes. And that's the terrifying part is, I know I'm not 100%, and I don't want the audience to think that no, I'll be all. I'm not. But I'm able to compare where I was 2-3 years ago to now. And I know it's significantly different. And I can only expand and adapt even further from here. And this has been really inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I actually was just thinking last week, I'm like, what would be a really beautiful picture to replace where the TV is? So I am thinking about it because I mean, dang, like it's hard to limit screen time with kids because they listen to they know the rules, but they're irritable. They start snapping. They get agitated. They're loss of focus. All these things when they watch too much of it.
And can I also say that from a hypnotic standpoint,
Mhm.
that you are being programmed when you watch television. It's not a mistake that it's called television programming because you are being programmed. When you watch a flickering image at a fixed distance that alters your emotions, you are in, by definition, a hypnotic state. So the information being delivered to you is going directly into your subconscious mind. There's a reason why companies have spent billions and billions of dollars on advertising. It's not just because it works on everybody else and not you.
Yeah.
It's not just because they like spending that money for no return. It works. There are subconscious influences everywhere in our culture, and the television and now our phones are the most powerful of all of those. And children, until the ages of between 7 and 9, are constantly in a state of hypnosis. That's why we say children are like sponges. They are completely and utterly receptive to everything in their environment until that age.
Wow. It's so true. Like we were watching we got a package where you have commercials. I said it's good for kids to have commercials. They have to learn patience. But because everything's automated. It just goes to the next show. But then what I recognized, there was a Bounty paper cleaning product, paper towels. And my son's like, you should get that, Mom. I'm like, we do. We have them there. But she's like, but is it Bounty? Because and I said, well, it's Kirkland from Costco. He's like, no. It has to be Bounty, Mom. I'm like, my God, he's turning 9. So I'm like, it does start early. And it's on things that they're not really interested in. Why does he care about Bounty paper towels, So I agree with you.
If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's conversation, it's that many of the patterns we struggle with aren't signs that we're failing. They're often signs that we've adapted. And many of our thoughts, reactions, and behaviors are running on patterns we've learned over time. The challenge is that what once helped us survive may no longer be serving us. And in part 2 next week, Peter and I take the conversation a step further as we explore hypnosis, how the subconscious mind works, and what it actually takes to create lasting change at the root level. So thank you for joining us for this episode on Wellness to Greatness. Until next time, and remember, awareness is the first step towards transformation.